Chronic illness and exercise can feel absolutely impossible. You know movement is good for you, but anytime you try to work out, you feel so fatigued, in pain, or worse, you end up in a flare where then you can't move for weeks. You can never get a solid routine down and it feels like your body's always trying to work against you. What if I told you there is a way that you can move your body consistently with chronic illness? It just might require a few things that you need to unlearn. Welcome back to Mind Body Mel. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Mel. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor and I also have an autoimmune disease called psoriatic arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis causes really painful swelling and inflammation in the joints. I was diagnosed with it about 9 years ago now, and since then, exercise has actually been my #1 cause of flares. This has been really challenging and honestly upsetting for me as someone who has always been very active. I played soccer as a kid, I danced, I taught group fitness classes in college. Fitness has always been a really big part of my life. So when my autoimmune disease became active, it felt like something had been taken away from me. Instead of being able to do all these activities, teach multiple group fitness classes a day, suddenly walking around the grocery store could take me out for the entire week. It has taken years of healing, but I am now 4 years pain-free from my autoimmune disease. In the last year, I've really focused on rebuilding my fitness, going on a bit of a fitness journey, figuring out how to adapt fitness, how to adapt exercises that I love in a way that makes sure that I stay pain-free, that I can move well for a really long time, and I'm not going into an autoimmune flare. I am in a place now where I just feel so much gratitude for my body. I almost can't believe it, honestly. It truly makes me want to cry because there were so many years that I spent in bed, not being able to move, in pain, so angry at my body for what it couldn't do. And to now be in a place where I feel so proud of my body for what it's been through, that now I want to move because I want to take care of it. I know what a gift it is to be able to move. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, the things that I've learned along the way from this journey, how to move with chronic illness, what are some things that you can adapt and maybe unlearn so you can work with your body and not against it. It might look different, it might take time, but it is possible to exercise to move well with chronic illness. So get cozy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get started. We all know exercise is important. I don't think I need to go on and on about how crucial exercise is. It's gonna help you sleep better, it's gonna improve your mood, it can help with anxiety and depression, it's good for mobility and longevity, your cardiovascular health, your endurance, reducing your diabetes, your heart disease, your cancer risk. It reduces joint stiffness and pain. I could truly go on and on. We know exercise is important. It is a foundation of health. Exercise is training for being able to move well, to be able to walk up the stairs, to grab your groceries from the car and bring them inside, to bend over and pick up your child. It's about learning to move in a way that is pain-free. And if you have chronic illness, you're probably like, that sounds great, Dr. Mel, but the problem is with chronic illness, it's a lot more challenging. Trust me, I know. The challenge that comes up with exercising and chronic illness is that it's a balance, right? We know exercise is good for our bodies, for our health, but also it can be the thing that tips us over into pain, into having high fatigue, and maybe even setting off our inflammation. Especially in the beginning of your chronic illness journey, it might feel like you have a very narrow window where exercise is still a benefit to you, because exercise is a stressor. It's a good stressor that's teaching our body resilience and adaptability. But when you're already dealing with a lot of stress in your body, on your body, with something like an autoimmune disease, that stress might be too much for you to handle. I'm gonna give you a lot of different advice that I have learned myself for your fitness journey, for your exercise journey, but I do wanna stress that it's also important that you're working on the root cause of your illness. I highly recommend working with a licensed naturopathic doctor like myself who can dive into your lab work, identify systems in the body that might need a little bit more support, work on your nutrient gaps in your diet, work on your nervous system regulation, all the other foundations of health. You also want those in place too. We want to bring down that inflammation level, work on what's causing it to rise in the first place so that you are able to tolerate this good stress of exercise. It is possible to do both of those things at the same time, to be working on the root cause and also be making sure that you're moving. You can do both of those things at the same time. This is why I always say it's important to have a really good team behind you who is supporting your health. So working on the root cause, it is important to keep moving. You just have to meet your body where it's at. On my autoimmune journey, I reached a point where I wasn't in a ton of pain every single day, and I was so antsy to get back to the person I used to be, right? So I would dive right back into the old workouts that I used to do. I'd be really invested in it. Things would be going well for a week or two, and then the fatigue would hit, the pain would hit, and I would start to find myself back into a flare. The truth is that you're not in the same body anymore. You have to adapt, and that can come with a lot of grief. It can come with a lot of anger, and eventually you're gonna reach a point of acceptance with that. Your body is different, and that's okay. So you almost have to treat this as something that's completely new. You're a complete beginner to this journey. My first recommendation, especially if you are new to movement and exercise, is to work with a trainer, especially someone who's familiar with chronic illness. Even though I have a background in fitness, I invested in sessions with a personal trainer when I was just getting back into working out. So I found that working with a trainer was so important for learning good form with my body, making sure that I was doing things in proper alignment, but also for rebuilding my confidence. Taking things slower, learning what makes an efficient workout, because in the beginning I really needed my workouts to be shorter for my own energy levels, but I still wanted to be building muscle, to be building strength. I know this can be an investment, but it doesn't take that many sessions. I think I did 3. I really wanted to nail down my squat form. I learned that my left side's a little bit weaker than my right side and things I can do to improve it. But truly the biggest thing was just building up my confidence again. So if you're able to, I highly recommend that. The second thing would be to decide on a goal that really motivates you. A lot of people go into fitness and movement with aesthetic goals. There's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight, to wanting to feel more confident in your body. But personally, I just find those goals to not be as motivating. They're not what's making me jump out of bed and being excited for my workouts. What I find motivating is a life goal of wanting to move as well as I can for as long as I can. That gets me so excited, especially after having so many years where I couldn't move well. That is really inspiring to me. When I remember those years, it's what gets me out of bed in the morning, that I want to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the health and the body that I have now. Maybe for you, it's that you want to feel your happiest, you want to feel your most clear, you want to feel anxiety free. That's what really gets you moving. But think about what your motto is going to be, either when you really don't feel like moving or you're feeling frustrated with your body because it's not at the level that you think it should be at. Have this motto in mind that is outside of your chronic illness. That's something that motivates you, that you're working towards. This next one might be really difficult, but start slower than you want to. It might not feel great for your ego to do a 10-minute workout or to pick up the 5-pound weights, especially if you used to run marathons or you used to pick up the 50-pound weights. But the sooner that you can embrace the slow and steady approach, the better. So many of my flares from exercise came from doing too much too soon. And then I would crash and burn and I would lose all that progress. The slower way is actually the faster way. That has taken me years to learn, and I really just hope that you can take that and run with it or walk with it, because we're going slow. When you build up, when you do things slowly, when you do them consistently, you can go longer. Instead of doing harder workouts for 2 weeks and then being in a flare for a month, you can continue every week to move, which means eventually you're gonna end up making more progress. Along with slow, start where you're comfortable. If you're currently not moving, maybe you're not feeling confident in your body, you're still kind of feeling angry and frustrated with what your body can do, jumping to going and doing a workout at a crowded gym with a lot of bright lights might be a little bit too far out of your window of tolerance. If you don't know what the window of tolerance is, go back and watch this video. I explain it. Basically, it's your capacity for stress. Exercise is already going to be a bigger stressor for you having a chronic illness. So start somewhere where you feel comfortable, like your house. Put on a 5-minute YouTube video. You can do it in your pajamas. Just make it really comfortable for you. I remember I went through this phase where I would light a candle and I would have soothing music on and I would just do a short workout that way. I tried to make everything around me as low stress as possible because I knew the workout was going to be enough of a stressor. After I did the 5 to 10 minute workouts, then I moved up to doing the 30-minute workouts at home. I went in such small steps, but now I'm able to work out in the gym 4 times a week without any flares consistently. You will get there. You just might not be there right now, and that's okay. Slow and steady, I'm telling you. Next, let's talk about what types of workouts, what types of exercise and movement you want to be doing. Start with low impact exercises. That means that we're not jumping, we're not being really hard on our joints, we're not doing HIIT workouts, we're keeping both feet on the ground. We're doing slow and steady movements. Highly suggest starting with walking. If you haven't been moving, if moving has caused you a lot of pain, walking is the best exercise that you could be doing. Start with 5 minutes a day. See if you can add on a minute every week. Then you can progress to doing 2 5-minute workouts a day and work your way up from there. Even now, walking is a big part of my movement routine. And the other focus should be on strength training, resistance training. You don't need to use weights. You can use bands, you can use body weight. Start where you're comfortable. But strength training is great for building muscle, which is anti-inflammatory, it helps with your blood sugar control, it helps maintain the integrity of the joint, it's good for your bone health, which prevents osteoporosis. Personally, I think it makes you feel so confident and strong. That's what I find really addicting about it. It always puts me in a great mood. And I think personally, I had this idea in my head that lifting heavy weights would flare my autoimmune disease more, but I actually found that it was a lot of the cardio workouts that just completely depleted my energy. Strength training is slower, it's methodical, you're really focused on your form. Especially when I adopted split training where I'm doing upper body on some days, lower body on the other, I found it really gave my body enough recovery time between workouts, which I think was another key for me, was letting my body recover. I've actually found that my body loves strength training and it's very chronic illness friendly. This next one is kind of the whole point, but figure out what your body likes. All of our bodies are different, all of our autoimmune diseases are different. What works for me might not work for you. Last year, I really wanted to try running and I started really slow. I was just doing a little bit and alternating with walking. My joints got so red, so inflamed, so painful. Everything hurt. And I took that feedback and just realized I don't think running's right for me right now. That doesn't mean I'll never get into running, but for right now, my body is giving me the information that it doesn't like that. I also realized that when I was squatting heavy with the barbells, my body didn't like that either. It much prefers using dumbbells. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. If anybody has an idea why, I'm not sure if it's the weight distribution or what, but I do not flare when I use dumbbells for my strength workouts, but I will flare if I use a barbell. Again, this is just information my body's giving me. But I didn't take that information and go, what's wrong with my body? I'm so angry with it. I should be able to run. I should be able to use the barbell. Instead, change the track for that and say, oh, that's interesting. When I use the dumbbells, I don't have pain. Maybe I should do more with the dumbbells. That's how you work with your body. It might not look how it used to look, but you can find ways to make it work for the body that you have. It's all just information. And when you slow down and you start to tune into how you feel when you are doing a movement, you're gonna get a lot of information. Another piece of advice I have for tuning into that information is write down your workouts. You can have a journal, you can do this in your notes app. I do it in Notion. I write down the workout that I did and I write down how I felt at the end of the workout. I like having this in my phone because I can write it down after every set, or when I'm cooling down on the treadmill, I'll just write a sentence or two and say how I'm feeling in my body, how I was feeling going into the workout. And that's how you can start to notice these trends. Maybe you realize every time you're doing a deadlift, you notice that you're in pain the next day. That can give you some information to look up more about form, make sure you're doing things correctly and safely. Maybe you've noticed after you do a spin class, you are just absolutely exhausted for the rest of the week. Maybe you want to dial back on that activity. And also you might start to realize, hey, I felt like I could have done a few more reps. I think it's time for me to progress or to increase my weight, because that information goes both ways. You're also going to start to get information of how you're improving. A good range I like to use for figuring out if an exercise was good or it might have been pushing me into more of an inflammatory flare state is how I felt at the end of the workout, or how I felt that day or the next day. So if I finished a workout and I felt absolutely exhausted, it means I overdid it. Sometimes we have this mentality from social media or just the fitness industry in general that you have to push it so hard that you should be sweating like crazy and exhausted, or it means like you didn't do enough. Completely get that out of your head. You should end a workout feeling good. You should have that endorphin high. You should feel like you still have a little bit in the tank that you could have done more. And personally, for me, that took a long time to figure out that I should stop even when I feel like I could have done more. That's probably gonna take some trial and error. A lot of this that's literally how I learned all these things, was failing and figuring it out. But especially with chronic illness, finding that barometer of ending a workout and still feeling like you have energy is so important. Some muscle soreness, especially in the beginning, if you're new to lifting weights or any type of fitness program, that's gonna be normal. And you really wanna up your stretching, your mobility work, your recovery support, making sure you're sleeping well. But you don't wanna be in pain. You don't wanna be completely exhausted, unable to do anything else. So we're trying to find that balance there. On the topic of sleep, sleep is crucial to this. If you had a terrible night of sleep and you were planning on doing maybe a more strenuous workout for you, it might be a good idea to adjust. Even now where I'm pain-free, I still have to make these adjustments during the week. I'll usually make a plan for my workouts in the beginning, and then as things come up, if I get a bad night of sleep, if maybe something really stressful is going on and I can just feel myself getting more depleted, I will either adjust the workout itself or move it to a different day. Again, we talked about your stress capacity, and it's good to remember that exercise is a stressor. So if your sleep has suffered, you might not be able to handle as much stress. You might choose gentle walking as your movement that day instead. If you are really struggling with your sleep, I do have an entire video on an evening routine that helps you to have your optimal sleep so that you can recover better. So go watch that next. With your movement and exercise, you're gonna notice that you do have to make adjustments. Don't assume that you're going to be able to do the workout the same as you were last week. Things might feel different in your body. You might have to make adjustments. You might feel stronger one week, and then the next week you're not able to lift the same weight, and that's okay. What's more important is that you're able to show up consistently. This is something that happens whether you have chronic illness or you don't have chronic illness. We are not always the same. There are other things going on in our life, in our health, in our menstrual cycles, where you might feel different in your body that day. One of the greatest gifts that chronic illness taught me is how to be in tune with my body, to be able to take all this information and to then be able to adjust so I can feel my best no matter how my body's feeling. If I'm feeling low energy, how can I make this the best movement for that body? It might not look the same every week, so you have to look at it with almost fresh eyes of what would feel good in my body today. Another key realization in my relationship with movement was integrating nervous system regulation into my workouts. What this looks like for me is taking my workouts slower. I've already talked about, I really like strength training for this purpose, where I can be slower, methodical with my reps, really focusing on my form. I'm breathing through each rep, and I'm focusing on breathing from my diaphragm and not my chest. So one way you can identify this is to put one hand on your chest, one on your diaphragm when you're breathing, and try to only move the hand that's on your diaphragm. So that's by your belly. You want the hand on your chest to stay still. I will also stop a workout and do this if I find my heart rate has gone really high. I usually wear my Fitbit. You don't need to wear a Fitbit or a fitness tracker. You can usually tell when your heart rate's really high, but it is nice to have that visual cue. Heart rate range for exercise varies by age, so I would look up a range that you're looking for when you're working out. I know for me, if my heart rate is getting around 170 or higher, I will stop and take a few deep breaths where I'm focusing on extending out my exhale. Extending your exhale is a signal to your parasympathetic nervous system that it's okay to relax. So while I'm doing this stressor, I'm also giving cues to my nervous system that we're safe, that this is the good stress. It's not always about just powering through. I want it to be challenging, but I want it to be doable. And I want to make sure that I'm not sending signals to my nervous system that it's unsafe. So stopping periodically throughout your workout, doing that diaphragmatic breathing, extending your exhale are ways that you can make a stressful activity feel less stressful to the nervous system. Always, always, always end with some type of cool down activity. Do not skip that end cool down period, whether it's stretching, mobility, even sitting and doing some deep breaths, a meditation, really gentle walking on the treadmill. I never want to leave a workout with my heart rate still really high. I want to bring it back down to baseline so I'm ending it feeling relaxed and calm. My last two pieces of advice are a little bit more mindset related, and in my opinion, mindset work is really where it's at because it makes everything else easier. First is to enjoy the process, which I know that sounds so cheesy and you're probably like, ugh, but movement or health or fitness is not a destination, it is a journey we are on for our entire lives. Hopefully that's a very long time. I used to get so angry and frustrated with my body, and it feels so much better to celebrate all of the small wins. When I'm able to pick up a weight that's, 2.5 pounds heavier, that's exciting to me. It means that my body is improving, it's adapting, it is liking the activities that I'm doing. In the past couple of months, I've added in taking a 6-mile walk on the weekends. That would have left me on the couch for the whole rest of the day, and now I can do that. I can't emphasize enough how slow this process has been. This has been years in the making of being able to rebuild my fitness. There was an entire year where all I did was walk. And then I added on 1 day a week of strength training, then 2, then 3. Now I'm up to 4, and that feels really good in my body. It has been a process. And if I had spent years just being mad and angry and upset with what I couldn't do, I would have missed out on all the joy of improving that I've done in the past few years. When I'm doing my workouts, I talk to myself with so much encouragement, almost like I'm coaching myself. Tell myself things like, wow, look at you go. Look how much weight you picked up. I know this all sounds cheesy, but it truly makes such a difference. And the second mindset shift that I think I've really gained from this journey with chronic illness and exercise is that you are able to build so much self-trust in yourself. What I mean by that is that by showing your body care, by adapting workouts, by doing the slow and steady approach, by taking time to enjoy the process, you are making your body feel safe. And for a lot of chronic illness, the body doesn't feel safe. So you are teaching your body that you are someone it can trust. It has your best intentions in mind. You're not gonna push yourself too far. You're not gonna push yourself into a flare. You're gonna treat it with so much recovery, so much intention. You're gonna become someone that you can rely on. Your relationship with yourself is one of the most important relationships that you have in your life. And being in a body where you can be in pain, where things don't always work the way that you want them to work, can damage that relationship. Movement and exercise and feeling good moving is a way that you can help to repair and strengthen that relationship with yourself. I wish you didn't have this extra challenge of having a chronic illness, but I hope that you felt comforted and inspired by my story of how much I struggled with exercise and chronic illness and pain, and that while it's taken a long time to be on the other side of things, to feel grateful and excited to move my body, I never thought that was possible for me, and that's why I know that it's possible for you too. I would love to hear in the comments, what is your relationship like with exercise, especially if you have a chronic illness? Is there anything that's helped you in that journey? If you liked hearing about these mindset shifts, I do have a video on the 5 mindset shifts that helped me heal my anxiety and chronic illness. It goes really well with this video, so definitely make sure that you watch that next. If you'd like to see more videos on chronic illness, anxiety, and healing, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. I upload new videos every single week, and that makes sure that you don't miss an upload. I hope you love this video. I will see you next week. Until next time, I'm rooting for you every step of the way.